God, I hope my family doesn't watch or listen to this.
Welcome to episode number 3 of Leeson Learned. That's right. We are 3 weeks into this thing now. Thank you to everyone who has watched the videos on YouTube, everyone who has listened on Spotify, iTunes, everywhere that you get your podcasts. We appreciate it. Thank you so much for all of your support. And we hope that you're enjoying these. I have certainly enjoyed bringing them to you. I am very excited for my guest this week. He is, quite frankly, he is someone I consider to be my little brother in stand-up comedy and in life. I've known this guy for, I don't know, 12, maybe more years, maybe 15 years now that we've known each other. We met in London, Ontario. I was running a very odd stand-up comedy, not club, but a bar with a comedy show at it. That was a monthly show. I got an email from a young comedian that was looking to get some stage time, and ever since we have been very close. And like I said, I consider this guy a brother. Him and I have toured all across the country together. He's on CBC Gem right now. You can check it out at cbcgem.com or CBC. Just Google CBC Gem. You know how to get the fucking thing, don't you? At this point, can you not figure out how to find a video? Of course you can, but that's where you find it. And I am very excited. This was a very, very interesting chat with my buddy, Al Val.
Thanks for being here, man. Yeah, man. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Al Val, not your real name, not your shortened version of your name, let's say. Real name...
Algis Vita Santanas Volulis.
Which is, of course...
Lithuanian.
Yeah. Probably my favorite name, I would say. Like of anybody's full name, you know? Probably my favorite.
But in my family, doesn't break top 3.
And you are actually Algis Valulis
Junior. Named
right?
after my father.
Right.
Yeah.
And who is he Antonis? What is it? The middle?
No.
Vitas?
His middle name is Algis Paulus Jonas Volulis, I think.
See, now I think overall your full name, right?
Yeah.
Sounds a little better than that. I think it flows better.
I think so too.
Right?
Yeah.
But you are indeed a junior.
I am
Not
indeed.
the third, you're a junior.
Inferior in every way.
But not the oldest son, which
No.
I've always found interesting is your dad did not name his firstborn son after himself. He waited until his second.
Well, my brother Paulus is like his name, and that's my dad's middle name.
Right.
So my dad wanted his name to make an appearance in there. And then
wow.
He was
So
like,
he did middle
he's
name.
a supporting cast.
Right.
And then he had me, and he was like, that's the lead right there. He took one look at my baby face and was like, that's a leading role. That's a leading man in the Valulis family.
You have a big family.
I do.
How many brothers and sisters?
3 sisters, 1 brother.
Why so quiet into the mic there? A lot of people listening to this they wouldn't have seen what you just did.
It's so factual. I just wanted to make it interesting.
Right. So 3 sisters, 1 brother.
That is correct.
Everyone older except for 1 sister, right?
Yeah.
So you're the second youngest.
Mm-hmm. It goes Dinah, 2 years, Aurelia, 2 years, Paul, 2 years, me, like clockwork, and then Vanessa, 7 years after me.
Wow.
Go figure.
Interesting. Yeah. And so in your family, right? You grew up in Whitby, Ontario. Mm-hmm. In your family, who is the funniest member of that family?
Paul, for sure.
And everyone across the board would say that.
I don't break top 3.
Who is below Paul?
Probably my mom when she doesn't try, and then maybe me. My dad's quippy sometimes. He'll like slide one in there, right, unexpectedly.
Right. So growing up, your dad is of course a doctor.
Yeah.
Right. Of what kind of doctor?
A general surgeon.
General surgeon.
Yeah.
growing up the son of a general surgeon, Whitby, Ontario, second youngest of 5 children, right? What were you like as a kid?
I was really quiet, kept to myself.
Right.
Around the home, at least. Really barely said anything.
Yeah.
My family used to make fun of me for being a space cowboy because sometimes we would be like driving to some family event and then maybe halfway there, a little pipsqueak voice from the back would be like, where are we going again? Like I would just get dragged everywhere and just not, I don't know, just go along with it. I would just be there. I was like a little phantom boy.
Interesting.
With no personality. Until like university, people are like, oh, he's a human being with
in your
thoughts
family?
and emotions. Yeah.
What about your friends? Like during your childhood years, elementary school, high school, what do you like around friends?
So this is the thing. I was a goof with my 3 best friends.
Yeah.
Growing up, Kieran, Phil, and Johnny. But I was also a huge turd until grade 10. Like I was the one that I was always pretty naturally gifted, so I'd like pull good grades and shit, but I was like a huge brown noser and a kiss ass. So like I had friends, it was a reconciling thing. It was like, fuck, what word am I looking for? It was, at least I had that, you know what I mean? That I was funny and I was a goof sometimes, but I would do things that would piss people off. Like if I got
like what?
A 98, if I got like 24 to 25 on a test, I would go up to the teacher and be like, yeah, but I would argue that this is correct because I would argue that
you would argue the one point. Guy.
Yeah.
You were the guy who couldn't get 24 out of 25 on a test?
Yeah.
What did they ever overturn that? Did you ever have one that you argued where they were like, you know what, you're right?
Usually more out of just fucking tenacity. Just be like, kid, if I give you this last point, will you shut the fuck up and go back to your seat so I can teach the rest of the class? You're making it all about you. Yeah.
Wow. And that would
most of the time
aggravate the other students, of course.
Naturally.
Right.
I would hate me. I look back and I'm like, what a little shit I was. But that's the thing. In like grade 10, I realized it wasn't doing me any favors socially.
Right.
And that I could get by still pleasing the people who wanted to see good performance out of me. I found a nice little compromise where I would be like, I'm pulling A's, but I'm still cool and I don't take this shit seriously no more. You know?
And what was the change that you made in order to make that happen?
I grew a shag. All you need to do is just grow shaggy hair, man.
That's it. That's what you did.
Yeah.
You grew shaggy hair, and all of a sudden people are like, "Oh, this guy."
Yeah.
Well, he's still arguing his test marks, but look at that hair.
I cut back on the gel. I used to dippity do the old school ramp where it would be flat,
Caesar
and the fucking wall,
Caesar.
the white wall.
Oh yeah.
That's a Caesar?
Caesar cut. Yeah.
I thought Caesars were like scruffy Julius.
Well, there's several ways to do the Caesar, but
head.
the first way was straight and up at the front.
I had like what the stop sign.
So you figured out how to not be the guy who's arguing 24 out of 25 is not right, and you're the third funniest guy in your family, third funniest person in your family.
Yeah.
And so you're going now. You've graduated. Let's say we're into high school now. What type of kid are you in high school? Popular?
Yeah.
Obviously a very good-looking guy, right? Always?
Thank you.
Has it always been the case?
More or less, yeah. I used to have really bad acne problems and braces. But I still had a nice facial structure. That
what age? You're right. Yeah. What age are we talking about? Where the acne and the
grade, pretty much 7 through 9, those 2 years.
Okay.
And then grade 10 was when I grew out the hair, stopped using so much dippity do.
Those are the shaggy years.
Shaggy years, baby. New year, new me.
So 10, 11, 12, we got the shaggy hair. We got the no braces anymore. We got
still bad acne, but
who cares because you got the shaggy hair. And are you still now? You're obviously in incredible shape. Is that something you're doing there as well?
Yeah, I was always pretty naturally athletic.
So naturally athletic. Football. What are you playing?
Soccer at that time.
Soccer.
I played football the last 2 years of high school, and I kind of regret it. I was never really made for football. I was like the little bunny rabbit, fucking running around, avoiding getting my head taken off. Because everybody was twice my size.
At this time, grade 10, 11, 12, are you popular? You a popular guy?
I ran for student council vice president on 0 platform. and won easily.
Just because of who you are?
Just because of who I was, and I promised, and I followed through on this, that I would I would bring a dodgeball tournament to the school.
Dodgeball tournament.
I would organize a dodgeball tournament. That was my big selling point.
Where the school people, the children get involved, or you're bringing one in where they can watch?
Yeah.
You're organizing one where they can play?
Where not everyone can play. It was like a first to sign up, first to get in.
Right.
Dodgeball, the movie, was written about that experience.
Right.
And I was, what's his face? The bad guy. I was the snake.
You're Dwight Goodman.
I'm Dwight Goodman.
Or whatever.
What's his name? How am I?
Ben Stiller.
I'm Ben Stiller in that movie. Yeah.
But Dwight Goodman is his character name.
Yeah.
You're that guy.
I'm that guy.
So you win based on the fact that you look a certain way and you're a popular guy.
Because I organized it, sure. I put together a team of the strongest, most athletic people.
Right.
Yeah, it was so rigged. Sure. It was so self-indulgent. And I won the position promising people that I would bring them a dodgeball tournament. And I rigged the deck so that we would crush everybody.
And so you go on now from high school and you're going to university, right? In London.
Yeah.
You pick Western.
Yeah.
Why?
Because to be completely honest, my brother was there, and there was a lot of decisions that I made up until my mid-20s were all sort of based around doing what I thought in my own head would make other people happy. And it was like London.
Who are the other people?
Like my family.
Okay.
So
parents or everybody?
Everybody.
Okay.
Especially parents, but everybody.
Sure.
And having my brother there in London was a huge selling point for me.
So he's already going to Western.
Yeah. And he had nothing but good things to say about it. It was a party school too, so there was something about that I craved.
Right.
They had a good psychology program, which was what I was going into.
That's what you took as psychology.
Yeah.
And anything else or just that?
I meandered around, I deviated, and I went off the path and then came back.
And why that?
I already knew I wanted to be a comedian.
Right.
So the university thing, to begin with, I was doing that just to appease the status quo. That it was you weren't going to get a good job, you weren't going to be worth anything unless you go to university.
So again, family pretty much coming into play, or society, I guess, in a general sense.
Yeah.
If you don't take this path, you can't get hired, and it's great to have dreams or whatever, but if you don't do this, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's not to say I didn't believe
right.
that a university education is important. I still do.
Sure.
But at the same time, those were the strongest guiding factors kind of thing.
But in actuality, you have what do you have right now? A degree?
I have a 3-year major in psych.
In psychology.
5 years. Yeah.
At any moment since you have received that degree, have you ever used it?
Explicitly, maybe. Sort of. I still retain a lot of that information. It's the social psychology stuff that I find the most interesting. Human beings in groups. When a lot of people hear that I took psych, they're like, oh, you must be analyzing me right now. I'm like, I took psychology, not psychic mind reading. What the fuck do you think it is that they teach in university? But I don't know, social psych is really fascinating. I find that human beings in groups are monsters. We lose our minds. Individually, we can all be fascinating, beautiful people, thorough, well thought out, just so much potential individually. But as soon as you lump us together, we lose our fucking minds. And I think it's tragic, and I see it. It's so prevalent to me now that I can't not see it all the time.
And that's why you took psychology in the first place? Yeah. Was your fascination kind of with us as a society and how we interact with each other and that type of thing?
Yeah.
But you've never actually pursued any career in it that wasn't, you knew going in, this isn't what I'm going to do. This isn't my career path. I'm just interested in this. My family needs me to go to university or needs me to do something. So I'll do this because I'm kind of interested. But I know I'm not going to work in this field. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of your thought.
And it's a soft science. So I can get away with saying I did a science, but I didn't have to, struggle through biology or physics or any of those kind of things. The heart of chemistry.
And so you're in university. Now you're living in London.
Yeah.
Residence first year?
I missed the due date. to apply for res.
Of course. And you know what? Of all I know about Al-Val, missing a due date. If I had to guess, if somebody said there's here are the top 3 reasons he might have missed the opportunity to live in a residence. Here are the 3 reasons. If missed a due date was on it, I would go, that's the one. For sure. So you missed the due date, and now what do you have to do?
Now, it just kind of fell into place. I met a guy at this, it was like this mini course that you took at the university before you started. It was like how to write an essay for university. And it was like this intensive thing that I met a guy who was in a very similar situation to mine. And we were like, do you want to, I don't know, find a place together? And it all just kind of fell into place. And we spent 4 years living together. He was an awesome dude.
And so now you're living in London. You're going to university.
Yeah.
Where does the stand up come in?
Within the first month. Oh, so at Western there was a comedy club, a UWO comedy club, which did like mostly improv. They would meet every week to play Whose Line games, and they didn't take it particularly seriously. Like they had a troupe that you could audition for, and they would perform at all the reses all over the place. But like, it was a hobby. They were all hobbyists, and then I would show up and be like, "I'm making this a career. Get out of my way."
Right.
And like, I don't know, when I look back on those 5 years, I think it's kind of cool that we all found each other. There was this sort of boom in London of comedians who just out of nowhere got really intense about it. And we all just found each other. Am I skipping ahead? I know you're doing this chronologically, but we'll fucking get there. Anyways, first month so
What
I'm
are you
taking
talking
over, man. You can fucking leave. I'm taking over now.
All right. I'll see you later.
All right. Welcome to Al-Val's Fireplace Chat.
There's no fireplace.
Yo, but this interview is fire though, dog. Still.
So you get into stand-up comedy. You're at Western University. Yeah. You get into the UWO comedy scene, and nobody's taking it seriously. You're taking it seriously because this is what you want to do. You're doing the psychology stuff to do whatever with your family, make them happy. But in your mind and in your heart and your gut, comedy is what I really want to do. This is what I want to do. So UWO's got a comedy thing. Why would I not be in it? Yeah. And are you doing stand-up? Are you doing improv? What are you doing? Sketch or like everything? Everything is all a part of it. Yeah. Okay.
I wanted to be everything to everyone all the time. That's a recurring theme in my entire life. If you want to dig deep, I want to be everything to everyone all the time. And I want to be the perfect encapsulation of all that shit.
You want to be everything to everyone all the time.
Yeah.
That must weigh on you because that's impossible.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, I'm 2 mistakes away from a mental breakdown.
Really?
Oh, I'm juggling a lot of shit.
Always?
Always.
You walk around with that?
Oh yeah, for sure. I get hung up. Like if I have an exchange with a stranger that doesn't go well, if somebody it says something rude to me, or if I don't know, if I even fucking step on somebody's toes or make a stupid mistake and somebody's like, "Hey man, what the fuck?" Then that shit, I will think about it way longer than is normal and natural and healthy. It will kind of plague my day to be like, "Oh, that old lady doesn't like me."
Someone you never met.
Yeah. There was a TTC worker at the station off my house who I would always make a point to look at and nod and give hey, to be really smiley and cheery to the guy just so he would like me. And then it turned where I would dread doing it. If I was in a bad mood and I was really in my head, I was like, I still got to say hi to the guy. I still got to wave. I still got to look smiley.
Why? Because you think if you don't,
yeah,
he's going to be like, that guy's an asshole?
If he sees me mad one time, then he's going to be like, everything I thought about that guy, it's a complete lie. What an asshole.
So
he looked mad one time.
Would you say your entire life is basically spent trying to make everyone like you?
It's maddening. Yes.
Has this gone on since you were a child?
Oh, yeah. I think when I grew out the shag, that was sort of the turning point where I was like, I need to stop being a dick to people. There's a better way of, I think part of it is, there's a lot mixed in there. I think there's like, I can learn how to charm people. If I can learn how to charm everyone, be like the most likable, then in turn, I will get validation back. They'll like me. I will have friends, and I can get most of what I want. And that's a really callous way of breaking it down, but it's very human and emotional. It's like I need to be I need to be liked, I need to be validated and accepted. So why ever risk that by directly entering in conflict with somebody?
What happens if you know someone doesn't like you? What happens inside yourself? You know 100% they don't like you. Has anyone ever told you they don't like you? Or do you just, is that something you feel?
Most of the time it's in my head. But I can't recall off the top of my head somebody saying that to me.
I can't imagine anybody saying to you, I don't like you.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
I cannot imagine that.
Pre-shag era.
What you've told me now makes sense, that you've spent your whole life basically trying to avoid people not liking you. But I would say that it would shock me to my very core if I ever met somebody who was like, Val, I do not care for that guy.
Yeah.
You know? Because you are like, people ask me a lot, you know how you get into conversations with people and they're just like, you start talking about like the nicest people you've ever met. I would always say you're like the nicest guy I've ever met. So it would like shock me but I've always thought of it as like, why the fuck is this guy so nice?
Yeah.
You know, like, what is it? And now it makes sense.
Yeah.
You don't want people to dislike you, therefore you go overboard of nice, where you are beyond nice, where most people are not like that.
Oh yeah.
Right?
You want to take it another level deeper?
Always.
I think there's like some deep-seated abandonment issues in there.
Interesting.
Where it's like, I could score points with somebody if we're talking like a ledger or some kind of like a meter, some exchange, then I've scored points to fill up this meter. I'm up to here. And I've overblown it in my head, this abandonment, this fear of abandonment, that like one mistake is going to turn that meter to zero and that person's fucking gone. Once they can't get what they want out of me, they're fucking gone.
But where did that start?
I think I'm working it out. It's something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. And I think part of it has a lot to do with fighting for space and attention in a big family. I think that probably has something to do with it, especially a really competitive one where everybody's an overachiever.
Right.
Is like, you know, you're only as good as your last A++, which is probably why I would fight so vehemently for like that last point, was like, if I get perfect, I can stand out, because otherwise I'm quiet around my family. And standing out, there were one of two types of standing out in my family. Either you stood out as a problem, or you stood out as the champion kind of thing. And not to say that my parents fostered this sort of competitive thing. It all just kind of grew organically, right? That's kind of what happens when you're raised under a father figure that's downright heroic. You know what I mean?
You know, to grow up under that, like, what can you possibly achieve in your life? You know, especially as a kid, what can you possibly do where it's like, hey, Dad, look what I did today. Oh, that's great, son. I fucking saved a life. Not that your dad does that. I don't think your dad was coming home at the end of the day like, hey, why don't we all sit around and talk about how many lives I saved? But still, just to have that weigh on you, and then to be, because I know one of your sisters is a doctor. Your brother, is he not a doctor of some sort now as well?
He went to UBC for naturopathic medicine.
Right.
But what he does is like, he calls it concierge medicine, which is like this sort of, it's all things. It's like, that's my fucking phone. I'll throw it out the window. Can I, do you guys want me to stop? I'm just getting messages like crazy. My family has a feed that they just like. Shall we pause?
I guess let's take a break since Al couldn't put his phone on pause and Dan's got to piss.
Do I need to explain the malfunction?
We
that
take
my
a break
phone
in every
at?
episode.
I can't turn it
Why don't
off.
we take a fucking break?
The fucking power button is malfunctioning and I can't turn.
You can't turn that to like silent?
I'm done.
There's no way to put it on silent?
You want a deep interview with Al Val?
I did.
Well,
I
that's
thought
as
we were getting
deep as
into
we're
it.
gonna go.
Dan's pissing. I don't even know if we're recording right now because Dan's in the fucking pisser. Al's leaving. This is all fucking.
You know what? I don't care if you don't like me anymore. You broke my trust.
This episode of Leeson Learned is sponsored by the Big Fish Steak and Lounge in Sarnia, Ontario. One of my personal favorite restaurants in the world. I was going to say in the country, but no, in the world. They have some of the greatest food I have ever had. Every single time I eat there, I think to myself, it will never get better than what I have just eaten. And the next time I go back, they top it once again. It's that good. If you live in the Sarnia area, make sure you book your reservation for lunch or dinner, or hell, book your reservation for both right now. Do it tonight. What are you going to cook for dinner tonight? Probably something awful. Don't do that. Head on over to the Big Fish Steak and Lounge. If you don't live in Sarnia, I suggest you make a trip down just for the food, or if you're going to be in the area, stop in and have one of the greatest meals you will ever have. This episode is also sponsored by the Car Lot, etc. in Sudbury, Ontario, where they make buying your next vehicle very, very easy. Let's say you go online, you find a vehicle that you want to test drive, but you can't quite make it in. No problem at all. They will bring the vehicle to you so you can take that test drive right from your own home. They do have the largest used truck inventory in the north. They also have the best selection of cars, SUVs, and vans. If you're like me and your credit is, let's say, not great, that's no problem. They do have options for everyone. You can also trade in your vehicle. They offer the best trade-in value in the north. So head on over to the website, thecarlot.ca, and book a test drive right now. This episode is also sponsored by MVP Properties. For all of your property management needs in southwestern Ontario and the GTA, big or small, these folks do it all. From helping you find great renters for an investment property to large-scale property management, MVP Properties is a complete solution property management provider based out of the Kitchener-Waterloo area. Problems with your current property manager? No problem. Give them a call. They'll be happy to give you great service at a reasonable rate. Visit mvpproperties.ca or call toll-free 1-844-284-RENT. That's 1-844-284-7368, or locally at 226-499-4687. This episode is also sponsored by Laughing Viking Studios in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Laughing Vikings is a digital media studio and live entertainment production company turning delusions into reality. Located in the heart of Toronto's TV and film district, the studio is the ideal home for creators, actors, podcasters, photographers, and filmmakers who need a convenient and flexible space to create. Book your studio time for self-tapes, podcasting, film shoots, photo shoots, casting sessions, workshops, and rehearsals, and ask about their memberships. Visit laughingvikings.com today.
You're how old when you start stand-up comedy?
18 years old.
And so you're getting into through the comedy scene, the comedy club there, right? In London. And what's your first
let's put a pin in what I'm thinking in my brain. We'll get back to it. When we get to like this past year, the crazy year that I've had, I have a funny story about that first 6 months of joining the UWO Comedy Club. That's like really poetic.
But it doesn't make sense now?
It'll be funnier in context.
But you did just mention the year you've had.
Yeah.
Which is, of course, a crazy... Well, I mean, you brought it up, so we might as well get into it.
Yeah. You know what? From 18 to 29, a whole bunch of bullshit happened that you really don't need to know about. I meandered around. I tried pleasing people. I thought I would be like a cheap imitation of Dane Cook for about 10 years in my act. And now I'm on the other side of it. Now I'm being authentically me, and it feels kind of cool.
Right.
I'm still a lot of people think I do an impression of Dane Cook.
Still?
Yeah.
Now?
Yeah. I'm really physical. And I don't write. I go up there and I wave my arms around. Any purist comedian who has punchlines and writes his material will always have some like backhanded thing to say about like, you really waved your arms around a lot for that one.
They say that to you? Really?
Yeah. Yeah, and I can read between the lines.
But are you getting response? Are you getting laughs? Are you getting like people liking it?
Killing it, baby.
Right. What the hell was that?
I'm trying it on.
What was that maneuver? Is this money?
So Johnny Manziel or whatever his name.
Who?
Johnny Manziel, the failed football player who got really cocky by doing this and then he plummeted.
I have no idea.
Like played one season for the Montreal Alouettes.
No clue.
Okay, anyways.
Not a clue what you're
talking about. I tried it on. It's not working. I'm trying to merchandise and brand myself.
By doing a Johnny Manziel who didn't work out from the sounds of it?
Fuck you. I'm trying things on, all right? Don't I have the space to do this? And I thought this was a welcoming space where I could try different things.
I mean, you can as long as they're yours. You don't need to try Johnny Manziel's approach.
Well, it's like I always
failed approach, it sounds like.
No, you know.
Doing this with your fucking hands.
I mean, I stole that from somebody else, but you know.
Johnny Manziel, whoever the hell that is.
It's like I always say, wobble bobble.
You say that?
Always.
Why? What does it mean, wobble bobble?
It means no worries for the rest of your days.
That's Hakuna Matata.
What?
It's not wobble bobble. That's Hakuna Matata. It's from Lion King.
Yeah, but it's in a different language.
Wobble bobble? What language is that?
German.
All right. So
that was the comedy portion of the podcast.
Yeah, good work.
Thanks.
So let's cut to the last year of your life. Okay? Tell me about, what was it, a year ago that you came out of the, do you call it coming out?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
As
queer.
Queer.
Yeah.
Which means what?
It's a cop-out. It's an umbrella term.
Okay.
Because it's like I'm a lot of things, you know? I have a history of dating women, and now I've started to sort of branch out and explore beyond that. And now I've slept with men, women. I do a joke about it in my act, and I'm not going to burn it here, you know?
No.
Wobble bobble.
I'm not interested in the joke portion. I'm interested in the real portion.
Okay, I'll be real.
Queer covers a lot of things, right?
Because to me, maybe it's me still sort of coming to terms with a lot of it, but it's a non-pretentious way of saying I'm like a pansexual bi-gender person.
Right.
Which has like, you know what I mean? It has that pretentious ring to it where it's like, this is just a simplified version of like, that's all you need to know is I'm out there. I'm out there, man.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you have dated women exclusively for a while.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. But while you're dating them, are you experimenting with men at that time?
Only in between breakups. Like 1 or 2 hookups.
Right.
Kind of gross back alley, like Craigslist.
Really?
Shifty shit.
Literally met in an alley or like?
No. So but that's like you go to Craigslist and it just attracts a certain type of like deeply closeted people.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you break up with a girl. Mm-hmm. Was that the reason you broke up with the girls? Was I'm interested in guys or they're not related? It was
they are related, but on a subconscious level. Like there was just a tension that every one of my relationships lasted about like a 2 to 2.5 year mark.
Right.
And progressively, as time went on, I started feeling more and more claustrophobic and locked in, and I couldn't put my finger on why this was happening, but it felt like by the end I was like, I need to get the fuck out. And a lot of it was because I was hiding a lot of these sort of things that were coming up in my mind. Like the cross-dressing thing I've been doing since I was a teen, like since I hit puberty, you know what I mean? Like my family hoards a lot of old clothes. So they were like kept in this side room. So I just had this sort of treasure trove of like outdated, gross, fucking secondhand hand-me-downs. God, I hope my family doesn't watch or listen to this. But, Yeah, like
So
that
they
was.
have
I
a
would
room
sneak
of
that shit.
women's old clothes,
Yeah,
basically. And so that's where it started. At what age?
like 13, 14.
And why? Like what drew you to that, or what
I
was your
liked the way it
first?
felt. First of all, I think women's clothing just feels so nice. Like, why the fuck? Why are men's boxers made of fucking sandpaper? Why can't we enjoy the same, like satin? Satin's really fucking nice.
It's lovely. Yeah.
Isn't it the best?
Yeah.
Feels so nice on your skin. Why can't we have that? But also there was, I don't know, like it's.
Is that how it started for you? Did it start as a why can't we have satin? I want to see what that feels like, or how did it start? And
I
at what
think
age?
it was also, to be completely real, I remember, do you remember the music video Lady Marmalade with like fucking Pink?
Yeah.
And Lil Kim and
Maya. Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, it was like, like burlesque, lingerie, that sort of thing. That to me, that video came out like right when I was fucking shifting into fifth gear of puberty. That was when I was taking off. So that was like a really pivotal moment in my head. That, and like, I was finding porn on Napster and LimeWire. So I was just starting to explore that shit. And I think fundamentally there was this sort of, that female form was so profoundly erotic to me that there was something that I kind of wanted, like, where am I going to find a Little Kim or a Maya or something like that unless I sort of like play fucking pretend and recreate it in my head. Is this gross? Stop me if this is gross.
No. Why would it be gross?
I don't know.
What's gross about
listening
that?
to this being like, so you fucking put on some panties to get your rocks off? Is that your identity now? And no, that's not true. That's sort of how it started. It manifested itself in this sort of
But who gives a fuck about that
thing.
person
But
anyway?
It took really primitive, basic roots at first. That's how
Right.
it sort of expressed itself at the beginning.
Yeah.
But now that I'm older, like, I realize it's about more than that shit. You know what I mean? And I wonder how much of it is purely vicarious. Like this idea that the female form is so much more enticing, beautiful to behold, desirable. So there's, I think, this people-pleasing thing that I got going on, being everything to everyone at all times, I think that definitely has a part to play in this, where it's like, I also want to be the hottest chick. You know what I mean? I also want to be desired the same way I've always desired women.
And what was the first thing you put on or dressed in, or what was your introduction to that?
Probably, oh God. Okay, disclaimer. If your last name is valueless, turn this off right now. I'm giving you a second. Okay. Probably a pair of panties.
Pair of panties from that you found in your house, or you went and bought?
That I found in my house.
Found in your house. Okay. And so interested. So you put them on. Feels right?
Feels wrong.
Feels wrong.
In my confused 13-year-old brain, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
Right.
You know? But it feels exciting and fun.
Do you wear them throughout your day? Do you put them on for a few minutes, take them off, or
few minutes, sneak them on.
Right.
Feel that simultaneous rush with like this the taboo-ness of it, being like, this shit ain't right. You shouldn't be doing this. You could get in big trouble. You could get fucking abandoned if somebody finds you like this.
Right.
You need to lock this shit away because this is bad. This is not natural. This is not good.
Interesting.
At the same time.
But also feels good?
Yeah.
At the same time.
Yeah.
It feels like I like this.
It feels fun. It feels liberating.
Right.
On some level.
Do we start with the panties and then, like, does that go panties and then stockings?
And then it graduates. Yeah. So it evolves. It like, you know, when I have the house to myself on the rare occasions, like I would go exploring in all the junk that was left out in that side room and just like find a fucking dress or something like that. Doll up.
For a night? For a whole night? Or do you just do it for a few minutes?
I got a big family, so like those moments where you have the house to yourself came very few and far between.
Right.
So it would be like
And nobody ever caught
I'd
you.
be lucky if it was an hour at a time.
Family never came home.
There were some close shaves. There were some close calls. Some close calls.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, are you just dressed in the clothes? Are you putting on wigs? Are you painting nails or anything at that point? Or it's just the clothes?
Since I would always have so little time,
Yeah.
it would be just the clothes, like kind of on, off. On, check myself out, be like, ooh, cool. This is sweet. You know, fucking run around the house a little bit. And then freak out because I'd be like, they could surprise me and come home early at any moment. And you know, like I said, that tension, that ever-present screaming tension between these two voices that are in direct conflict with each other was like, it would be a lot. So it would just be an intense experience all around, just feeling like there's something severely wrong with me while this is happening.
Right. And so now we're 15. You're 15. You got your first girlfriend. Mm-hmm. You've been doing this for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Does she know anything about this, or you keep it from her? Does anyone know? Or is this just you?
Nobody knows.
So you date her. That ends, you know, it's a teenage relationship. Ends normally.
Teenage
right?
relationships. Bah, 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 bah.
And so now we're in university. Now you're starting to do stand-up and all that kind of stuff. You're getting into a couple of relationships throughout university. And this is still ongoing, though.
Yep.
Now you're living. Now you're not with your family.
Yeah.
There's no side room. So where do the clothes come from now?
Now that I'm living on my own, I'm ordering shit online. Every once in a while, I might go to some like, I don't know, like lingerie shop and be like, it's for my girlfriend. It's for my girlfriend.
You living by yourself at this point, or are you with roommates? And
I'm living with JD Smalls, and then like the fifth year with a group of guys.
Does he know? Do they know?
Nobody had any idea.
They had no idea. So you're doing this completely on your own. Nobody knows what's going on. I'm hiding this from everybody, but it is ongoing from the age of 13.
Yeah. I very quickly became an expert at covering my tracks because I was so terrified of being found out that like every minute detail I had on lock. You know what I mean? So like I had little spaces to hide this shit and like very convenient ways of just covering my ass.
What would the people that know you at that time, what would they say about Al?
That's an interesting question. I'm not sure. What would they say? I wonder how much I honestly can't say. I wonder if how much of who I was back then, a lot of it feels in retrospect. I mean, it's hard to say because now I'm looking back on it, right? I've outgrown all that shit. So a lot of who I was felt manufacturous.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I used to wear armbands, but like, I always liked accessories. That's kind of, what is this? I like it. I don't know. I just always liked wearing things on my arm. And I had dreads. You met me when I had dreads. Right. A lot of my personality was sort of this, and it all makes sense now, that I was projecting, that I was like protecting the underside of it. I was protecting who I really was by being like, I'm going to show you who I am, and you don't have to ask any questions beyond that. You know what I mean? I'm the wacky, dreadlocky white dude with black and blonde, bleach blonde dreads, wears armbands, does comedy, man. You know? I think a lot of people would probably have seen that, and I wonder how many of them kind of saw through it as a ruse to be like, this guy's just looking for who he might be. I wonder.
At the end of your university, are you dating someone? A female?
Yeah, Heather.
How many men had you been with by that point?
Probably like 2 or 3.
2 or 3 in these Craigslist back alley situations.
Yeah.
Like hush hush.
Yeah.
Nobody knows this about you. Not one person in your life knows that you've been with any of these men.
No. But Heather, who I will never not speak ill of her. She was fucking amazing.
Terrific. I loved her.
I've never loved anybody with more of me than her.
Yeah. She was great.
Awesome person. Yeah. And like so I came out to her about the cross-dressing shit like close to the tail end of our relationship when things were already a little bit shaky.
Is that because of you or because she found something?
So it was because of me. I just felt all this inner turmoil that I was like, I just need to, I don't know, maybe if I tell her this, then it'll be a weight off my shoulders that, I don't know. Or maybe that was my subconscious way of being like, maybe she'll hate it so much that she'll break up with me and then like problem solved. I didn't have to be the one to do it, which is really cowardly. And I resent myself for that. But that was my way of making sure I'm always on somebody's good side. That it was like, you get to go away carrying the responsibility of the breakup. And I sort of caused it to happen by planting the gross fact about me, like, you know. Right. But anyways, I came out to her and she was like, yeah, I came across on your computer some pictures that you took. And I was like, yikes. And I never brought it up. I've just been wondering if that was something that was a one-off thing. She was like, I was just really confused by it, but I never thought it was.
Do you know what the pictures were?
Yeah.
Were they of you dressed as a woman?
Yeah.
Full woman, like wig, everything? Or so by this time, you're dressing in full female stuff.
No makeup, though.
No makeup, but
gross
hair?
Yeah.
Or are you doing the dreadlock thing?
Well, that's the thing. I would buy a wig big enough to cover the dreads. I would tie them up real tight in a fucking do-rag. And then, you know.
And then, so you got the wig on, and then you put like a dress on or something, and take pictures of yourself?
Yeah.
So still, nobody knows this about you. You're taking pictures, and she just happens to come across them on your computer.
Yeah.
Doesn't say anything.
And not perverted shit. You know what I mean? Like.
No, just
me
wanting to see yourself as a woman.
Yeah.
Right. And so she comes across him, doesn't say anything. You kind of come out to her, and she reveals at that point, like, oh shit, yeah, I did. I actually found these pictures, and I've been a little curious about this.
Yeah.
But never said anything.
No.
Did that bother you, or were you happy she never said anything until that moment?
To me, I think she handled the whole thing gracefully.
Right.
Because that whole conversation went like, she was like, there's nothing about it that I'm into. It doesn't turn me on. Frankly, it confuses me. I'm not sure how I feel about it. But if that's something that you need to do, then for sure, like, I don't love you any less. And if it's something that you want to incorporate in your life, I'll try to keep an open mind about it. But just don't wear my clothes. And I was like, all right, fair deal.
Were you wearing her clothes in the pictures?
No.
No. Okay. So she was just saying, as a general rule.
Yeah. But I did try on like one or two of her panties. She asked me, and I was like, yeah, I tried on one or two of them.
And then she said, please.
And then she was like, yeah, don't do that anymore.
Right.
Fair.
But ultimately, that relationship ended.
Yeah.
At that time?
Shortly after that.
Shortly after that.
Yeah.
Right.
It was already kind of on the rocks.
Right.
Yeah.
And so at that time, now you're 20, what are you, 28 then? 27?
25 or 6.
Okay. So at that time now, you're single again. Do you experiment once again with men, or do you go back to women, or what are you doing at that time?
Yeah, I kind of experiment a little bit more with guys. And mind you, like the whole time, every time I do engage with men, it's like me as this, it's always like this gender specific role where I'm like, I have to be the lady, you have to be the dude. You know what I mean?
Every time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was like fantasy play kind of thing.
So you have never been with a man dressed as a man? Ever? It's
no, I mean like now I have, but
now you have, but at that point.
For the longest time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It was like an insecurity thing. It was like, I honestly, it's like partially this probably internalized homophobic thing about it, that it's like, this is the only way it's natural, you know?
And then, so you experiment a couple more times with men,
but
then you get into another relationship with a woman.
Yeah.
Now, after a couple of instances with men. And was that because you didn't want to date men openly? You just kind of wanted to experiment, and now you want to get back to it? Or how do you get back to a woman at that point?
It's
or is it,
like I
or is
said,
it
I've always
about
been attracted to it's both. Yeah. So it's like I've always been attracted to women. So that was the thing, was like this side thing was fleeting to me. It felt like it was something that up until then, like I've had 13 years experience locking it away mentally into a box off to the side.
Right.
And I was getting really good at that. Like I have these densely built defense mechanisms. So I would be like, yeah, I can just keep boxing it away, lock those thoughts away deep into my subconscious, and then happily date a girl until it starts fucking poisoning me from the box outwards. You know what I mean? So like, that was the thing. I would be happily in these relationships, but still 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
And the whole time thinking, I don't know if I want to be with this girl or with a man, or like very confused the whole time.
Yeah.
Right.
Conflicted, but only consciously as much as it would be like, I'm happy with her, but this isn't going to last. And I can't identify what it is that makes me think this way, but I know that it's not going to last.
Right.
And it was also part of me like not being able to come to terms with it. You know what I mean? Like I knew why it wasn't going to last. It was all these secrets that I was fucking hiding.
What is the moment, about a year ago, I guess, what is the moment or what happens in you that says, you know what, I have to come out?
I think when you carry that sort of weight as long as I had, 13 to 29, 16 years, it really does. Like I said, it poisons you from the inside out. So I started getting sick of being the reason why these beautiful people that I would meet and connect with, and maybe I'm taking too much responsibility on myself, but it's not fair that I'm not giving somebody all of me, and it's poisoning every relationship that I'm in. And I'm kind of wasting these people's time by not being totally, thoroughly authentic with them. So it kind of hit this point where it was like, I need to tell somebody what's going on. And I have a gay uncle in San Francisco, of all places, who I'm like one day just with all the angst, all the two voices constantly screaming at each other. Finally, I was like, if anybody's going to understand, it might be him. And even telling him was kind of terrifying to me because I never really vocalized any of this shit to anybody. And even when I did with Heather, it was like clumsy, and it's all terrifying, right?
Right.
Some shit that I felt ashamed of for 16 years. To come out about it is like, it might not sound particularly brave, but it was probably a breaking point for me. It was something that I had to be courageous about. So, yeah. Came out to my uncle, he received it well, and that's it's a snowball effect after that. Once you tell one person, you tell another person, and the more people respond positively, the easier it becomes with every single person. And for me, the breaking point was I was on tour with Josh Elijah, hilarious comedian, great friend of mine, fucking awesome dude. We co-headlined a tour out west, and I came out to him about the whole thing. And I honestly, I have that abandonment thing in my head too, right? Where I'm like, if I tell this person, they're going to humiliate me in front of everybody. There's like a subtle mistrust I have with comedians where they're going to take, not you, but like they're going to take vulnerable, important information and use it selfishly to get some petty laugh or something like that. Like there are a lot of petty people in the industry. And I misread people like Josh and like you, who I thought might ridicule me to my face or something. I don't know. You know, you tell yourself all kinds of weird fucking stories about how people are going to react. So I came out to Josh, and then he was like, dude, that's awesome. And you need to talk about this stuff on stage during this tour. And I did for I sandwiched it in the middle of this set at Yuck Yucks Vancouver. And my gay uncle was there for it, and my brother and his girlfriend. And I talked candidly for 2 minutes, and it was the scariest thing I think I've ever done. But I talked about cross-dressing, and it got a huge response. It crushed.
Did your brother know at that point? You had already told him?
Yeah, he already knew.
Who was the first person you came out to? Was it Josh?
My uncle.
It was your uncle?
Yeah.
But after that?
After that, I think Paul, my brother. And then...
What was your uncle's reaction?
My uncle was honored. He was honored that I would tell him this sort of thing, that I would confide in him about that. And like really sympathetic and empathetic and just beautiful.
So
when I came out to him, he was like, okay, let's plan a trip where you come down to San Francisco and let's like reconnect, because we spoke we would exchange only on special events, birthdays and shit like that. But like this really connected us a lot closer. So he was like, come down to San Francisco, I'll pay for your flight and we'll hang out and we'll bond. You can talk to me about this shit. So it's great.
And then after that, who is the next person you tell?
Probably Paul, my brother. Either Paul or, I think it was Steve, my roommate.
And how was that received by Steve?
Steve is one of my best friends. Top friend. And roommate. He's my roommate and my friend. It's 2019. We're allowed to have these types of relationships, by the way.
Of course.
All right. Sure. And he handled it really well. He was like, yeah, that's cool. You want to play Smash Brothers? that was his reaction. How that conversation went. No, that's an oversimplification. But like Steve is like, yeah, that doesn't really change anything about you. I know who you are. You're a good person. We're best buds. It doesn't change anything.
And then, so after Steve is your brother.
Yeah.
What's his reaction?
Again, doesn't change anything. I'm grateful that you came out. I'm proud of you. I got your back. Just positive reaffirmations all around.
Then who's after that?
Probably another one of my university friends, Omid, I think. Maybe my little sister in there. The ordering starts to get foggy because, like I said, it's a snowball effect. Once you tell one person, it just gets a little bit easier and a little bit easier.
Who's the toughest person you had to tell? What was the toughest conversation you had? Right.
Yeah.
How did that go?
Not good. Yeah. My mom I come from a Lithuanian background, and it's a very conservative one, and she comes from a different era where, like, even though her brother is gay, she still struggles with a lot of those things. So, and especially, I think the biggest hurdle for her was feeling betrayed by me, that I lied for so long. I think to her it seemed like I was lying, that I did it sort of out of spite. She felt slighted, like I was doing it kind of intentionally. You know what I mean? Like out of spite.
To hurt her?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Which obviously isn't the case. And her reaction kind of in and of itself proved why I was so terrified of coming out. So yeah.
Was she the last person you told of your kind of inner circle?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that was part of also why she felt betrayed was that, at one point she did ask me. She was like, who else have you told? And I was kind of like, to everybody else.
Right.
Yeah, you're the last one. Which, I certainly feel guilty about it up to a point, but I think I don't regret it at the same time. I think I went about it with the best of my knowledge, with what I had, man. You make your decisions based on how comfortable you are with these things. You know what to do in your gut, and you might make mistakes. I think part of how I came out was pretty clumsy. I posted a picture of me dressed like a woman before I told my parents about that, and that caught them off guard, and I regret that. I know that was, again, cowardly of me, but like at the same time, I'm not going to dwell on it because I know I had reasons to do all the things that I did. So that doesn't excuse them, but at least I can say that I had my reasons. At least I know what my reasons were. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What was the most surprising reaction you got to someone you told?
Jeff, can I be honest with you?
I'd appreciate it if you were.
I think you surprised me.
Me? Really?
Mm-hmm.
How so?
How incriminating can I be here? You know what? If it doesn't fit, then you can edit this shit.
Yeah, you can say whatever you want.
Okay. Back when we lived together.
Yeah.
For however long. What was it? Like a year and then off and then another yearish or something like that?
Oh, yeah.
Whenever we would play NHL, you would liberally use the word faggot. You would get in fights in hockey, in your hockey player.
Yeah.
You would punch the shit out of somebody and be like, yeah, take that shit, faggot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Because I love the word.
It's a fun word.
It's a very funny word to me.
Oh, yeah. And now that I'm part of the club,
but I never meant it.
So
I
much.
never meant it in the. I never meant it as any term of like sexuality or anything. I meant it in the Louis C.K. form of like you're being a faggot, like you're being a fucking piece of shit, right? Yeah.
But you know, when I'm that sensitive,
right?
The tiniest things, I'm like, yeah. So
wow,
you honestly surprised me because I thought I knew you were cool enough that you would be like, I don't get it, but I'll try, sort of thing. That was sort of the reaction that I thought I would get from you.
Right.
But you were on the further end of it where you were like, yeah, you know, that's cool, man. You were oh man, I remember, it's all coming back to me now. We had that like hour-long conversation over the phone.
Yeah.
I like walked home from downtown. It took me forever to get home.
Yeah, I was on a walk also.
Time.
We were both walking the whole time because I said my biggest thing was, can I ask you questions? Because I'm so curious about all of this.
And that's what I love. I think that's my favorite reaction too. That's what I mean. That's why you surprised me, was because you had my favorite type of reaction where it's like, okay, I'm curious. When people want to know, there's different levels of support where somebody's like, I support you. Go get them.
Right.
You're like, okay, all right. You can stay over there if you want to. You can cheer me on from a distance. But when somebody's like, hey, tell me more about this thing. What about that? What about that? It's like genuine curiosity that means that you're invested. And I love that shit. That speaks volumes.
Yeah, because I've always, I mean, this is no secret to you, but I've always thought of you as like my little brother, you know? And
Brothers in Arms.
Yeah, Brothers in Arms.
Brothers in Arms.
Which is a ridiculous thing that we came up with at what movie was that?
Expendables.
Expendables, yeah.
What a garbage movie.
But I was so, and still am, but especially at that time, because it's a shocking thing to hear, right? Because you were so different. You always had a girl. As long as I knew you always had a girl around or with you, or a girlfriend, or like you seemed to be very much about women.
Yeah.
You seem to be like incredibly about, but not in like an asshole way either. You weren't picking up girls and fucking them and then saying get out of here, and like you weren't that kind of dude. You like genuinely cared and like you were really into like being a boyfriend. Really,
my one night stands turned into 2.5 year relationship.
Yeah. And that was always that was the most shocking to me, was like, oh wow, really? You seemed so, but then once you break it down, because after a few questions it was like you really got into the honesty of, I don't know if I'm attracted to women or I want to be that woman. I remember you telling me that on that conversation, was like, I don't know if I look at a girl, if I want to be with her, if I'm attracted to her, or I want to be her. And I thought, fuck, that's so fascinating to me, because who wouldn't want to be her? Everyone's staring at her. And
that's what I worry about. I wonder, like, I'm obviously deep in therapy trying to figure all this shit out, where it all comes from and what it all means. But,
so you talked to somebody about sort of the meaning, like the deeper meaning of all of this?
Oh, yeah.
Have you figured that out, or is it an ongoing search?
It's an ongoing search. I keep hitting a wall where I have, when you develop a way of boxing these identities and locking them away for 16 years.
Right.
Like I said, I got good at hiding. So I was even tricking myself about a lot of stuff.
Sure.
And therapy is this grueling process where I can't even, these tricks run so deep that my conscious, I can't even access them. Where sometimes like it keeps happening where she'll ask a really poignant question, something like really cutting, and I won't be able to hear it. You know what I mean? Like I'll hear it, but my mind just goes hazy. I start getting distracted. I look at patterns in the carpeting and the books on her shelves, and she's like, fucking stay focused. Answer the question. Like, let's explore this. Stay focused. And it's like the defense mechanisms and booby traps that I have in place in my brain run so deep that I lost control of them. So sometimes when I try and get to the bottom of some of this shit, there's like my deep brain is just like, no, even you don't have access to this room. Sorry.
Wow.
I can't even she's like, okay, let's explore that. And I'll be like, I can't, honestly, I can't. All I can see is a pattern of a guy with a big, like a Pinocchio face on your carpet. And she's like, ignore the Pinocchio face. Stay focused. I'm like, I'm lost now. I can't remember. All I'm looking at is Pinocchio.
Wow.
Yeah, my own brain is fucking playing tricks on me because whatever is at the bottom of this hurts so bad that that it's just not going to let me get there. I got a lot of work to do. That's why therapy kind of sucks, is every time I leave, I leave sometimes thinking I am hopeless and I have way more work to go than I came in with.
Is that true, or is that how therapy gets you where you're supposed to go back to spend more money? Are you supposed to feel that way? Seriously.
No, that has crossed my mind for sure. And that's part of it is like, at the bottom of it, like I'm paying this person. So even though we have a personal relationship, at the root core of it, it is a business transaction. And we even had an honest conversation about that visibly upset her, where she was like, under all of that, when you strip it down, is the skeleton of what you think you and I are all about, is it that this is a business transaction? I'm like, yeah, if I stop paying you, this ends. You know what I mean? It all goes back to the abandonment issues thing. Like, this is a trade. We are trading right now. And I think that's definitely not the most helpful way of approaching therapy, but it's not something that I can get over either. Like, my pragmatic, logical brain is always going to recognize that that's a thing, man. That's the foundation of our relationship.
Because it is a thing. You are paying to be there, so it is in the therapist's best interest for you to come back next week. There should always be something where it's like, well, let's explore that next time for more money. Mm-hmm. So to them, why would you ever be done? Now, in the general sense of a human, are you ever really done exploring everything about yourself? No, you're not. Which is where, but I've talked to 2 therapists in my life, and I had the same thought both times, was like, do you care about what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or are you just looking for your money next week? Or like, because you help me, I feel better at the end, but I would also feel better if I talked to a friend for free and we talked about the same shit and we got this deep into it and they asked the right questions. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean to take anything away from anyone in that field or psychologist or psychiatrist. Like I'm not shitting on that group of people or that profession. That's not my purpose here. But I'm just curious for you personally going through this. As you go, are you still in it now? Yeah. Like you still go? What do you monthly, weekly?
I go bi-weekly because it's I'm broke. I'm like,
sure,
it's expensive. So I'm caught between juggling like how much do I value my mental health, because I do find that I've had a pretty good year and I like to think that therapy helped.
Yeah.
But like
has it only been a year you've been there? Has that when it started?
2
was
years.
About a year, 2 years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
So did you start before you kind of came out to everybody?
I started probably about the same time I came out to my uncle.
So is that something you talked to her about? Was, hey, I'm going through this and who should I talk to? And she directed you to your uncle, or was it the uncle came first and then it was like, okay, I need somebody else to talk to?
Yeah. No, now that I'm thinking back on it, I came to her like shortly after the whole trip to San Francisco. So I had already come out to him. I had already done the trip to San Francisco, and like now the ball had started to roll where I was coming out individually to friends and family one by one, slowly, really slowly.
And was that something she talked you through?
Well, that's the thing is like, I think early stages of therapy, especially for people like trust issues. I don't know why I'm pointing out. Do you have trust issues? Do you think?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think stand-up comedians, naturally probably have some little seed of.
I've never explored that much, but I think probably if I really got into it, I probably would.
Yeah.
My parents divorced when I was young. Like, I probably have shit.
You probably got some shit.
I definitely have some shit. Whether or not it's trust, I don't know, but I definitely have some shit.
Everybody's got shit.
Everybody got shit, man.
Yo, that's life, man. You get
I
served
might call this
plate.
podcast "Everybody's Got Shit."
Everybody's got shit. Yo, you get served a plate of shit. That's life. You just gotta choose the seasoning you put on it.
That's right.
You dig in.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's a good quote. Is that yours?
I made it up.
That's a good quote, man.
Wobble bobble.
Wobble bobble, everybody. Let's talk about right now. So when you do shows now, stand-up wise, do you do them as a man or dressed like a woman?
Both.
How do you decide which one? Which is it based on a feeling, or is it based on the room that you're performing in?
It's a number of things. First of all, I know I need the time to get ready. Second of all, I need to know that it's a space where I won't feel like somebody's gonna give me shit.
Right.
You know? And I still get super nervous about leaving the house. That's always an exercise in deep breathing and pumping myself up, especially if I'm going alone. That's why I'm going to be completely honest. Alcohol definitely helps. Every time I dress up, I at least have 2 or 3 drinks just to take the edge off and to get some
before you get
courage.
Dressed up, or while
I'm doing it before I leave. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you get those couple drinks in you, feel loose, and then it kind of eases the tension for you.
It helps the screaming voices in my head being like,
right,
everyone's looking at you. What are you doing? You're a weirdo. Right. You're a freak.
Wow.
I know that's problematic. I know it's a crutch. I know it's something that I need to work on. But, for now, I'm not talking about getting smashed out of my mind.
Right.
But it is a tool lately for me to feel comfortable enough to take control, be confident in it, go nuts.
Interesting.
Stop second guessing every single move. You know?
Yeah. If you could give advice to 13-year-old you that started dressing this way, and there's a kid out there, 13 years old, who's sort of thinking about doing this, what advice would you give to that child or yourself?
I think the advice that I would give me is different than the advice that I would give somebody else. Because
interesting,
I'm a firm believer in things. I don't believe in any sort of spiritual things turn out. I don't believe in destiny, but I do believe in things turn out the way they do for a reason. And I don't mean that in some cosmic sense. I just think that you're ready for the situations that arise. And I think my life has led me up to this point because of the decisions I made. And there's no advice that me now could give 13-year-old me that would change anything, because I was going through some crazy shit at 13. So I would, with the good and the bad, I wouldn't give myself any advice back then. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's at least I can be proud of the strides that I've made. As late as it is, it feels like 31 years old. I'm still pretty young, sure, but it feels like I'm late to the game. And courage is it's relative, right? We're all used to, you can say that a firefighter is brave for what they do, but it's sort of their reality that they're used to. And I think coming out takes its own sort of relative bravery. You're not used to pushing yourself like that. So I'm proud of the courage that I exercised, and I know it took me a really long time to grow that courage, but I did it. I got there eventually. I wish I could have did it sooner, but there's nothing that I could have said to young me that would have changed that. I had to struggle. I had to lock it into a box. I had to do all this shit to be me now, you know? And for better or worse, I am me now, so.
And are you proud?
I am. Yeah.
You are.
Yeah.
Good. You should be. I think that what you did a year ago and what you continue to do, I think it took a lot of courage to say, hey, I'm not going to live a fucking lie anymore. I'm going to be me, and whether you like it or not, who gives a shit? And this is who I am.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that.
Thank
because I think there's a lot of people in the world who are not living their real life or their, like, how they feel comfortable. And I think they can look at someone like you and say, hey, if that guy can do this and he can, you know, come out to his family and his friends and all that kind of stuff, and everything's turned out okay so far, then maybe I can too. You know?
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
In the end, are you about to do a wrap up?
No,
Yeah.
why? What else you got?
I don't know. Let's hang out for a little bit longer.
We can definitely hang out. We're going to wrap this up
Okay,
here in a moment. But
Bottom line, can I say one more thing?
you say several more things.
To answer your question, sort of moving over to, I know you asked if I could give myself advice, if I could give somebody else advice.
Yeah.
I think it may be unfair to give somebody else different advice than I would give myself. And maybe it speaks to my self-loathing that it would be like, no, fuck me. I'm not giving shit-ass me any advice. But I will offer anybody who's going through the same shit that I am, in the end, man, it will always be the hardest thing in the world to... Okay, no, let me say this. I'm paraphrasing this quote, but I've always believed in everything that you've always wanted is on the other side of fear. And I'm probably butchering that quote, but I always really, this past year especially, I've really connected with that. Everything you want is on the other side of fear. And I think it's just so, it resonates so hard with me that, like, the things that you're most afraid to confront are the things that you need to confront to get better, to break through, to be a better person, to be more honest, to live a happier, more authentic life, man. Everything that you're afraid of is just, a lot of them are stories that you tell yourself in your head that just frankly aren't fucking true. When I came out, it just reaffirmed the friends that I've made, the chosen family that I've surrounded myself with. Nobody let me down. I was right all along about all these awesome people that I surrounded myself with.
Right.
And I was so afraid to tell these people, to give these people me, that, like, everything I ever wanted was on the other side of that stupid ass fear where I thought everybody would just up and leave. And what's the worst that would happen if people did? I still live on. I'm still alive. I still have my health. I can find a new chosen family. So in the end, everything that you want, everything that you desire is on the other side of fear. And it's the hardest thing to do, but it's the most rewarding.
Huge thank you to Al Val for joining me here today on the podcast. If you want to see more of Al Val, make sure you follow him on all social media platforms. I believe it's at Al Val Comedy on everything. Also, subscribe to his YouTube channel as well, and check out his CBC Gem taping, his comedy special taping for CBC Gem as well. It is fantastic. A huge thank you to Al Val for being my guest today. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for watching this on YouTube. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Thank you for downloading it, listening to it in the car, wherever you get your podcasts. This one is available, and we will see you again next week, everybody.